The year is 1988. The Persian Gulf is a powder keg. For nearly 8 years, Iran and Iraq have been locked in a brutal war, one of the longest conventional conflicts of the 20th century. But this isn't just their war anymore. The waters of the Gulf have become a battlefield of superpowers. American warships patrol these ancient waters, ostensibly protecting oil tankers from attack. But the mission has evolved into something more dangerous, something more aggressive. The USS Vincennes, a guided missile cruiser bristling with the most advanced weapons systems in the world, cuts through the Gulf. Her captain, William C. Rogers III, has earned a reputation. Some call him decisive. Others call him reckless. Just weeks earlier, Rogers had sailed his ship too close to Iranian vessels, ignoring warnings, pushing boundaries. His fellow commanders whispered concerns. But on this morning, Rogers and his crew are about to face their deadliest test, one they will fail catastrophically. Bandar Abbas International Airport, 9:47 a.m. local time. 27 minutes behind schedule, Iran Air Flight 655 finally begins its taxi, an Airbus A300, a wide-bodied commercial jet. Captain Mohsen Rezaian, an experienced pilot who has flown this route countless times, goes through his pre-flight checks one final time. In the cabin behind him, 290 passengers and crew. 66 of them are children. Some are families going on vacation. Others are pilgrims heading to Mecca via Dubai. Ordinary people on an ordinary flight. The Airbus climbs into the clear morning sky, ascending along its designated commercial air corridor. Rezaian's route will take him almost directly over the ongoing naval skirmish below, though he doesn't know this yet. Neither does he know that his transponder is broadcasting exactly what it should, a civilian aircraft identification code, Mode 3, on the correct frequency. But 7 miles below, chaos reigns. The USS Vincennes is already at battle stations. For the past hour, Rogers has been engaged in a firefight with Iranian speedboats, small Revolutionary Guard craft armed with nothing more than machine guns. The skirmish began when one of Vincennes' helicopters drew fire while operating inside Iranian territorial waters. Now, Rogers has made a fateful decision. Instead of withdrawing, he's given chase. The Vincennes has crossed into Iranian waters, approximately 2.5 miles inside Iranian sovereignty, pursuing the gunboats with guns blazing. Below deck, in the Combat Information Center, the scene is pandemonium. The lights flicker as the ship's 5-inch guns fire. The cruiser lurches violently as Rogers orders hard turns to keep weapons on target. Equipment flies across consoles. Post-it notes, actual post-it notes, are stuck to sophisticated radar screens because some operators aren't fully trained on the advanced Aegis combat system. Then at 9:47, a new contact appears on radar. Track number 4131, an aircraft departing Bandar Abbas, heading southwest, heading toward them. In those critical minutes, a cascade of errors begins. Human errors, system errors, errors that will prove fatal. First error. An operator checks the commercial flight schedule but misses Flight 655. Time zones are confusing, 4 different zones in the operational area. The lighting in the CIC is terrible, made worse by the flickering from the guns. The flight is late. He reports, no commercial aircraft scheduled. Second error. The aircraft is misidentified as an Iranian F-14 fighter jet, even though the Aegis system clearly shows the correct civilian transponder code. Even though the aircraft is ascending, not descending, as fighters would when attacking. Third error. When Rogers demands an update on the contact, asking for information on track number 4474, the response he receives is technically true, but it's about the wrong aircraft. Through a computer glitch, that track number has been reassigned to a U.S. Navy jet over the Gulf of Oman. His operators tell him the aircraft is descending at 450 knots. In Rogers' mind, the picture crystallizes. An Iranian F-14, armed with anti-ship missiles, descending to attack his vessel. He has, he believes, less than 5 minutes to decide.
Nearby, on the USS sides, Commander David Carlson watches the same radar picture. His crew has correctly identified the aircraft as a commercial airliner. They're not engaged in combat. They can see clearly what the Vincennes cannot, or will not. But no one asks the sides for confirmation. No one asks the F-14 fighter jets orbiting from the USS Forrestal. They could have provided visual identification in minutes. No one questions the fact that the aircraft is squawking civilian codes, climbing steadily, and communicating with air traffic control in Dubai. The Vincennes broadcasts warnings, but they're addressed to unidentified aircraft on military frequencies. Captain Rizayan, in contact with civilian air traffic control throughout his busy climb-out, never hears them. Why would he? He is on a scheduled commercial flight in a designated air corridor. He is identified. The distance closes. 7 miles, 6 miles, 5 miles. Rogers gives the order. At 9:54 a.m., 7 minutes after takeoff, 2 SM-2 surface-to-air missiles streak into the sky.
The first missile strikes the Airbus in the fuselage. The impact is catastrophic. The aircraft disintegrates instantly at 13,000 feet. Debris and bodies rain down into the Persian Gulf. 290 people, 66 children, gone in seconds. On the Vincennes, there's confusion, then horror. The crew had been told they'd shot down an attacking F-14. The celebration in the Combat Information Center dies when the truth becomes clear. This wasn't a fighter jet. This was a civilian airliner, a scheduled passenger flight. In Iran, the news spreads like wildfire. Tehran's streets fill with mourners, coffins draped in flags. The anger is seismic, the grief unfathomable. For many Iranians, this moment becomes seared into national consciousness, a wound that will never fully heal. The questions begin immediately. How could this happen? How could the most advanced warship in the world, equipped with cutting-edge radar and computer systems, mistake a climbing commercial airliner for a descending fighter jet? The answers would prove even more troubling than the questions. The Pentagon launched an investigation. The Fogarty report, released weeks later, was damning in ways the public would only learn years afterwards. It confirmed what many suspected. The USS Vincennes was inside Iranian territorial waters when it fired. The aircraft was exactly where it should have been, in an established commercial air corridor, climbing normally, broadcasting the correct civilian identification. The Navy's initial claims that the airliner was descending, that it had strayed from its flight path, were proven false by the ship's own data tapes. And yet, Captain Rogers was awarded the Legion of Merit, not specifically for the shoot-down, the citation carefully noted, but for his overall service as commanding officer. The crew received combat action ribbons. When the Vincennes returned to San Diego in October 1988, it received a hero's welcome. The message to Iran and to the world was unmistakable. The United States never apologized, never accepted legal responsibility. After Iran sued in the International Court of Justice, a settlement was reached in 1996, $131.8 million in compensation, including $61.8 million to victims' families. The U.S. expressed deep regret, but stopped short of acknowledging wrongdoing. For Iran, the message was clear. American lives matter. Iranian lives are acceptable collateral damage. Today, more than 30 decades later, Iranian Air Flight 655 remains an open wound. In 2020, when Iranian President Hassan Rouhani reminded the world of the number 290, it wasn't ancient history. It was living memory. This story asks us uncomfortable questions. What is the cost of aggression disguised as defense? What happens when technology fails, but no one is held accountable? When does a tragic accident cross the line into something more? Commander David Carlson of the USS Sides later said the incident marked the horrifying climax to Captain Rogers' aggressiveness. Other officers present that day agreed. This wasn't bad luck or the fog of war.
This was the predictable result of reckless command. But perhaps the most haunting aspect of this tragedy is how easily it could have been prevented. One phone call to the USS sides for confirmation. One visual check by nearby fighter jets. One moment of hesitation, of questioning whether the radar picture made sense. 290 lives hung in that balance, and they all fell. The families of Flight 655 never got their apology. They got a check and a statement of deep regret. In the decades since, they've watched their grief become a political football, their loss minimized, their tragedy forgotten by those who inflicted it. But on the ocean floor of the Persian Gulf, the wreckage of Flight 655 still rests, a monument to what happens when power meets paranoia, when aggression replaces judgment, and when the lives of the other are deemed acceptable losses in someone else's war. The victims of Iranian Air Flight 655 deserved to arrive in Dubai that morning. They deserved to go home. Instead, they became a cautionary tale the world chose not to learn from. Until next time, remember, history isn't just about the past. It's about understanding who we are today.